Hello everyone, welcome back to the Audit and Attestation class. In this class, we'll be understanding in detail about the PCAOB, that is Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, right? Here in this class, we'll be understanding duties and responsibilities of the PCAOB and the auditing standards issued by the PCAOB. So let's dive into for more detail.
So we have discussed so far on Title 1, 2, 3 and 4 of SOX. But in Title 1, if you have seen, like, which give authority and all things what PCAOB can do is been completely explained here in this section. So here now we'll be discussing PCAOB rules, responsibilities, duties, authorities and everything, which is being laid down in Title 1, right? So first one is purpose and duties of the PCAOB is to oversee the audit of issuers. So PCAOB is reviewing the work of the CPA who is performing the audit of any issuer, right? Duties of the PCAOB: first, register the public accounting firm, right? It is also being a responsibility of the CPA firm. If any, it's a responsibility of the PCAOB, right? If any CPA firm which is being required document and information, submit their information, document and the fees, then it is PCAOB responsibility to give the registration to them, right? So in Title 1, we have seen what all information CPA firm need to provide to the PCAOB to get themselves registered and renew every year their registration, right? So here the PCAOB responsibility is to give them registration, right? Make sense? Yes,
sir.
no?
Yes, sir.
Second is establish or adopt on both rules relating to preparation of audit report of the issuer. So here SEC has delegated the authority to the PCAOB to develop the rules and regulation for the auditor, how they need to conduct the audit of the listed company, right? And what PCAOB has done, they have taken AICPA auditing standard and then they have added certain additional requirement to those standard, and that to put together is called SEC auditing standard, right? Same way for the company side, they have adopted the GAAP, right? And they have asked for certain additional disclosure requirement for the listed company, right? Now conduct inspection of the registered public accounting firm, less than and more than 100, which we have discussed above rule. So this is the responsibility and duty of the PCAOB to conduct the inspection of the CPA firm. So every year, for which firm? Which has more than 100 issuer clients, right? And how what is the frequency if the CPA firm has less than 100 clients?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years, right? Right. Next is conduct investigation and disciplinary proceeding, which we have discussed in Title 1, right? So those all are the responsibility of the PCAOB to conduct the investigation and take the disciplinary action against the CPA and CPA firm. Next is promote high professional standard to improve audit quality for public interest. So PCAOB independence rules and ethics rules. So here also the PCAOB has adopted AICPA independence rules and ethics rules, and then they have added certain requirement for the listed company auditors. So the base is same what we have learned in last class, independence rules and ethics rules, right? And there are certain additional things they have added for the listed company auditor. Next is enforce compliance of SOX, rules of the board, professional standards, security law by monitoring from reporting requirement to an inspection. So here PCAOB enforce the CPA firm to follow the SEC rules and regulation, SOX compliance requirements, and the professional standard issued by the PCAOB, right? Next is set the budget and manage their operation of the board. So that's internal matter of PCAOB. Public accounting firm who issue audit report of the issuer must be registered with the PCAOB, right? We discussed earlier also this. So here again, we are reiterating the fact that public accounting firm who is doing the audit of the issuer or who has been appointed to conduct the audit of the issuer must need to register with the PCAOB, right? So far we have discussed like objective and purpose of PCAOB, duties or responsibility of the PCAOB. Now we are coming to PCAOB applicable standard. PCAOB is designated body with authority to promulgate auditing and related attestation standard, quality control standard, ethics, independence rules, and other standards relating to preparation and issue of the audit report for the issuer, right? Like we discussed earlier, they have adopted AICPA auditing standard and build on that with some additional requirement to conduct the audit of the issuer. Same way, they have adopted SARS and SSAs. What is SARS?
Statement on
Standard.
accounting and compilation review standards.
Statement of
Standards of accounting and review.
okay, and what is SSAs?
Statement of standards of attestation.
Yes, so those are being issued by AICPA, right? So those rules and standard they have adopted for the attestation and review engagement of listed client, and they have made certain additional requirement for the CPA who are conducting the attestation and review engagement for issuers, right? Next is AICPA Professional Ethics Division is able to hold AICPA members accountable to comply with the PCAOB auditing and related professional standard. That means if as we all would be the member of AICPA, right? And in future, when we are conducting the audit, we need to comply with the AICPA rules and regulation. When we are conducting the audit or attestation service for the issuer, then we need to comply with the PCAOB rules and regulation as well as AICPA rules and regulation. If PCAOB found you guilty as a CPA, then they can share the information with the AICPA, and then AICPA can take the disciplinary action against you, right? So here what they are saying, AICPA member is also accountable to comply with the PCAOB rule. That means under the AICPA, if you are a member of AICPA and you are working for any SEC listed client and you have not adhered to any PCAOB rule, then you can be debarred from the AICPA, right? So for example, there is a rule which is additional rule issued by the PCAOB to conduct the audit of the listed client, which is not part of AICPA. But if you are not adhering to that rule, which is not part of AICPA, then also AICPA can take action against you. AICPA can take disciplinary action against you, right? Make sense? Rule and standard issued by PCAOB must be approved by the Security Exchange Commission before they become effective. So all the PCAOB rules regulation are required approval from Security Exchange Commission. And what is Security Exchange Commission? What is Security Exchange Commission? Like a department of government of USA, right? They report to the Congress, right? A registered public accounting firm and associated person shall comply with applicable auditing and related professional standard issued by PCAOB. So for all the CPA who are in the public accounting firm and conducting the audit or attestation service, they need to follow PCAOB rules, regulation, and professional standard for the practice. Board adopt certain pre-existing standard as interim standard from AICPA, and same apply to the extent not superseded by the board. So here, like AICPA has issued certain standard for the interim audit also, right? Certain standard for the limited review also. So board here, like PCAOB, what is board? What is board here? Board of director? Huh?
No, sir, no.
PCAOB.
What is board?
PCAOB.
PCAOB, right? PCAOB has adopted those standard of AICPA until to an extent it is being superseded by the PCAOB rules. So Sandeep, answer to your question which you were saying in the morning, unless and until there is a specific rule and regulation or standard made by PCAOB, those general standard which is being issued by the AICPA will prevail. But wherever PCAOB has made certain specific rule, regulation or standard, then those rule, regulation and standard will prevail over the general rule of AICPA, right? So those rules, regulation and standard include interim auditing standard, right? Interim quality control standard for the CPA firm, interim attestation standard, interim ethics standard, or interim independence standard, right? Any doubts so far on PCAOB?
No, sir.
Right? Okay, let's jump to the next page. PCAOB ethics and independence rules. So PCAOB, like we discussed earlier also, they have considered AICPA independence and ethics rules, and then they have add on certain additional requirement, and the total club together is called PCAOB ethics and independence rules. Auditor independence is must throughout the audit and professional engagement period. So auditor independence is must for any issuer audit engagement, and that independence is required throughout the audit, not at the time of conclusion or not at the time of acceptance of the engagement. Since acceptance to delivery of the audit report, all the audit team member need to maintain the independence, right? Next is contingent fee. So general independence rules, general rule of independence, contingent fees impair the independence if serve the audit client for contingent fee for commission. However, there are certain exceptions to the general rule which we have studied in last week, right? So those rules apply here also. AICPA contingent fee rule or exception to those general rule apply to the PCAOB rule as well. Next is tax transaction or tax advisory. Same way, like general rule is independence is impaired when you provide tax services, but there are certain exceptions to the general rule in the AICPA independence rules. The same is being applies for the PCAOB as well, right? Tax services for a person in financial reporting and oversight role, right? For example, of any company which is a listed company or is an issuer company, they have, let's say, finance director, they have CEO, CFO, finance controller, managing director, right? They are in a position of overriding roles, right? So they are in a position, they can do the overriding of control. So to those individual, can a CPA firm provide consulting services, tax consulting services? So general rule is no, but there are again certain exceptions to the general rule. That means, what are those exceptions? Independence impair if provided any tax services to the person in financial reporting and oversighting rule or immediate family member of theirs, unless those services are being provided because he or she serve as a member of the board of directors or similar management or governing body of the audit client. For example, let's say when I was doing like audit of Goodyear back in 2009, 10, 11 and 12. So Goodyear is listed on US and they are also listed here in India, right? So every year or in every 3 years, they appoint finance director or managing director who are expat in India to the Indian entity, right? In that case of scenario, like I was working with PwC, we were conducting the audit, but as they are dedicatedly appointed as an expert of that listed company, and they may have certain tax issues in India, right? So in that case of scenario, providing the tax consulting services or tax return is allowed in the PCAOB rules, right? But if those members are like have like certain so many other businesses also, and you are providing you are giving them tax services to, you can say, pamper them or to bribe them or to make them comfortable so that they can continue your audit engagement with the company, so that is not allowed. But in case of scenario when it has been specifically aligned for that specifically designation for the specific work, in that case of scenario, if you can provide any tax services, or you can say income tax filing of the returns, that is being allowed, both in independence rules as well as in PCAOB rules. Second is person's relationship to the affiliate of the entity, board of director or subsidiary or holding or joint venture. So similar example, like that person, for example, let's say Motherson Sony. Motherson Sony is a company which is being listed in India, and they have around operation in 26 countries, and they have huge operation in US also, and they are also listed in US. Now let's say they appointed one person from India to US, right? So when they have appointed one person from India to US, so there would be tax complication, right? For the Indian tax, US tax, double tax, and all those stuff, right? In that case of scenario, the person who is being appointed in the US company is being a delegation, or is being a representation of the holding company's representative in the subsidiary company. In that case of scenario, for that individual, you can provide tax consulting services, and you can prepare their income tax return for the global income tax also. That is allowed, right? General rule is independence impaired, but there are certain exceptions to the general rule. When it is, if you keep in mind, when it is legitimate for that person, then it is being allowed. If someone is specifically and dedicatedly working for that company, in that case of scenario, it is allowed. And when it is for the benefit for the individual and for the CPA, and then it is been impairing the independence of CPA, right? It's a very thin line. So you need to evaluate case by case in such scenario, and you need to take internal consultation as well, right? If, for example, you are a small CPA firm, in that case of scenario, you can go to the AICPA council as well to take the consultation if needed. Note, first time require audit under PCAOB, no impairment for tax services provided before signing the engagement letter or start of the audit procedure. For example, in 2022, first time you are providing audit services to an issuer, but earlier you are providing the consulting services or tax services to that issuer. So any previous year, if you are providing the tax services before signing the engagement letter, right, before accepting the engagement or before start of the audit, till then if you are providing any such services, it is not impairing your independence. But after the signing of engagement letter and after the start of the audit, then you are providing any tax services. If they are not exception to the general rule, then you are in non-compliance. Make sense? Yes, no? कुछ तो बोल दो.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts so far?
सर ये जो इंडिपेंडेंस इम्पेयर्ड हुई थी टैक्स सर्विस के केस में, उसमें जो फर्स्ट पॉइंट था मेरे को वो अभी भी क्लैरिटी से नहीं आया समझ. Because he or she
serve as a member of board of director or similar management or governing body of the audit client.
Right.
So you are providing tax services because he or she is on the board of director of that company, not for any other reason.
Okay.
My
In
doubt
that
is,
case,
sir,
independence is impaired if he or she is because we are providing that service because he or she is a board of director and we need some we don't want our to
That is the
not
reason, like these are like critical area required deep assessment. Whether you are providing service only and only on account of that, they are the board of director and they have no other income from right, left, center. And they are
okay.
in such a position which has been considered as a like management position or board of director position, and which has been considered as a company position in itself. Then you
Okay.
can provide. But if they have like maybe like for example person like me who are in the board of director of like 4 companies,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Then if you are providing such services to me, like for example my CPA provides such services to me to pamper me or to take additional audits work
Then
or
that
additional attestation work, then it is impaired.
okay. Okay.
And if I am only and only, let's say, working for 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐩𝐿 and I have no other, you can say, work at all in my life, right? And I'm being on the board of director as an, you can say, executive member. So, like executive director are being who are 100% involved in that company. So, in that case of scenario, if you are providing tax services to me, then independence is not impaired.
Okay. Okay. Got
Very
it.
thin line, very thin line. But it required a consultation, internal consultation, very much required.
Okay.
And then also pre-approval of the audit committee is also required. So you need to justify to the audit committee why your independence is not impaired when you are providing such services.
Okay. Okay.
sir, now I am a CPA, sir. I'm now doing the audit of the client. And if I provide those tax services to board members, do my independence is impaired, sir?
General rule is yes, but there are certain exceptions to this general rule. If that particular member is only and only working for that company, and because he's working to that company, for that reason you are providing the services, then it is allowed.
Sir, I'm providing the service to member of the board, not to the company, no, sir. I'm not doing the audit of the client company.
Oh, yeah. So which is, if you see the note over here, so if till previous year you are providing tax services to the board of director, and now in this current year you have been appointed as an auditor. So till that previous year, if you are providing services, there is no non-compliance. But in current year, if you're still providing that services and those services are not exception to this independence rule, then you are in non-compliance. If they are allowed in this exception, then you are compliant. But again, it required pre-approval of the audit committee.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so audit committee pre-approval of certain tax services and internal control over financial reporting process services. Describe in writing to the audit committee. You need to describe in writing to the audit committee about the approval. So in that writing, which you are communicating to the audit committee, in that you will be defining what is the scope of the work, what is the period of the engagement, what is the fees, what is the compensation arrangement, and your sign an amended engagement letter also you will be presenting to the audit committee. And then you will be discussing the potential impact on your independence and how you are confident that this is an exception to the general rule of the independence, and you need to demonstrate to the audit committee that you are in compliance with the independence rules of AICPA and PCAOB. And then all the discussion among the auditor, management, and the audit committee during that meeting, you need to make minutes of that meeting and document in your audit file. So these are the requirements if you are providing any non-audit service to the audit client and taking pre-approval from the audit committee. So this is a process and requirement. Make sense? Yes, no, right?
Yes, sir.
The key thing is that auditor should not assume any management responsibility. Next is communication with audit committee concerning independence. If at any point of time when you are conducting the audit, and let's say in earlier we have discussed an example, for example, your spouse has inherited certain share of the audit client from, let's say, from your spouse great grandfather who has expired, let's say, and your spouse has inherited certain shares, right? So in that case of scenario, now your spouse is a shareholder of the company, and as your spouse is a shareholder of your company, your independence is in question, right? So in that case of scenario, in the independence rules, we have seen within 30 days, your spouse need to either donate or dispose of those shares. Then you are compliance, right? If you are not doing, then you need to communicate to the audit committee, right? So communicate with the audit committee concerning any independence issue. So whether prior to accepting the audit or during the audit also, if there is any such issue arises which is impacting your independence, you need to communicate to the audit committee. Prior to accepting audit and any attest client, at least annually also, when you are continuing, so you need to provide those information to the audit committee. What all information you need to provide to the audit committee? All the relationship with the client and client personnel in financial reporting oversight role must be disclosed to the audit committee. That means, like if you go back to the independence rule, which we have studied in last week. So, for example, you have a close relative or family member who are working, who is employee of the audit client. So you need to give those disclosures to the audit committee. This being mandatory disclosure, at least annually you need to give. Or if you are doing like first time audit, so at the time of acceptance, you need to disclose that fact to the audit committee and take their approval. Or if you have any direct financial interest, any of your family member have direct or indirect financial interest, or any of your close relative have direct or indirect financial interest, those interests is also need to be disclosed to the audit committee in advance. Second thing is discuss potential effect of these relationship on your independence. Third is document the substance of your discussion, that whatever the discussion is happening between you, management, and the audit committee, it's been mandatory for you to document that discussion. That means make the minutes of the meeting and do in your audit documentation. Annually affirm the compliance of independence to the audit committee. So every year you need to give an affirmation to the audit committee that you are in compliance with the independence rules of the PCAOB and AICPA. And wherever there is any doubt or wherever you feel there is any question on the independence, you need to give upfront disclosure to the audit committee and the reason to believe why you are in compliance with the independence rules, right? So this is all about like PCAOB independence rules. Now jumping into the next one, Form AP. Have you heard about this form? Form AP?
No, sir.
No? Anyone who is working with US company?
Audit participant, sir.
Huh?
No, sir.
Audit participant AP means?
Yeah, the short form and full form is good. Audit participant. What exactly is Form AP? Anyone?
It may be that what team involved in the audit of a client and their qualification requirements are meeting the criteria or not, we need to mention. It's a only guess, sir. I don't know actually what it is.
No, good. Anyone else like Kush, Ayush, Ankush, you have any idea of Form AP?
No, sir. No, sir.
Then we have.
No, sir. I haven't heard about it.
I'm
Sorry, sir.
surprised.
There was a disturbance. Can you repeat?
Do you have any idea what is Form AP?
Form AP. I've heard of it, but never worked on it.
Okay. So Form AP is mandatory to be submitted with the PCAOB every year by the CPA firm. So in that, the objective of this Form AP is to provide insight to the investor by providing following information about the audit. So first one is name of the engagement partner who is doing the audit or who is finally signing up the audit report. Second is name, location, and extent of the participation of each other accounting firm who constitute more than 5% of the total audit fees. So when you do like group audit, right, you involve various auditors, or when you do the joint audit also, at that point of time you involve various auditors. So here you need to give the disclosure of all the CPA firms, their name, location, and what all areas they have audited, what all component they have audited. If it is a joint auditor, what all areas they have audited, right? And you need to give the detailed information about all those CPA firms of which like total fees is more than 5% of the total audit fees, right? Then you need to give the aggregate information about those firms which is being involved in the overall group audit or joint audit, but their overall remuneration is less than 5%. So for that, you need to give the aggregate information. So that is called Form AP. So maybe like after this class, do the Google and download the Form AP also. So that would be a good information for you. So for public accounting firm is
what's the full
required.
form? So what's the full form, maybe?
Audit participants.
Audit participants. Okay.
Right. So public accounting firm is required to file Form AP with PCAOB within 10 days if you are conducting the audit for IPO. Right. And if you are doing annual audit, then within 35 days once you have signed up the audit report. For example, if you are doing the audit of Jan to December period, or let's say you have signed the audit report, let's say on 28th of February, right? Then in that case of scenario, in next 35 days, that means up to April 4, you need to file Form AP with the PCAOB. So that is the filing date requirement. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So this is all about SOX and PCAOB requirement.